Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Profit Able podcast. I'm your host, Terry Milroy, and today I have a very special guest, Ms. Brooke Boltz. Brooke has been an injury and insurance attorney for 15 years, and before starting her law firm, Boltz Legal, she was a partner at one of the largest law firms in the state of Florida. Within 12 months of starting Boltz Legal, Brooke was bringing in an impressive seven figures. And within a few years after that was bringing in multiple seven figures. So we are excited to hear about that. As someone with no formal education in business, Brooke learned about business through personal experience and mentorship, has developed a passion for helping other entrepreneurs grow, and that led her to start her own podcast, Ms. Biz. And Ms. Biz is currently ranked in the top 1.5% of podcasts globally by Listen Notes. So, Brooke, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It is an honor to be here.
So excited to have you. Okay. So, first, tell us a little bit about um, starting your own law firm.
Sure. And first, I also want to just comment that I've been getting over sickness, so my voice is a little bit hoarse. So I'm not maybe going to sound as peppy as I otherwise would, but I apologize, and this isn't my normal voice. So starting my own law firm. I've had my own law firm now for 6 years. It's called Boltz Legal. It's located near Orlando, Florida. And we practice in injury and insurance cases. So a lot of the types of law that you're really familiar with that you see advertised on billboards all over the place, that's the kind of stuff that I do. I started my own business about 6 years ago. As I said before that, I worked for a large law firm for 9 years on the opposite side of what I do now. I represented insurance companies and their insureds, and really always kind of had an interest in starting my own business, but was very afraid to because all the books I'd read said you need to have a six-figure savings account. And I never had that. I never had anything close to that. And so I just kind of thought that business ownership wasn't going to be in the cards for me. And then some things played out in ways that I didn't expect or really ask for, and kind of just was pushed into business ownership. And it turned out to be the best thing that could have ever happened in my professional life. And I'm living a life now that I don't think I ever could accomplish having worked at another firm, even if I'd worked my way up for decades.
So, in addition to being a lawyer, you're basically an entrepreneur that kind of fell into entrepreneurship.
Yes. And people don't always think that when they think of lawyers, and they don't always think of that when they think about becoming a lawyer. I know I certainly didn't. When I thought about becoming a lawyer, I thought about being in a courtroom. I didn't think about out going to networking events and out trying to conjure up clients. Like I just didn't even think about the business implications that come along with being a lawyer, particularly if you own your own business.
Okay. So, when you started your own law firm, what was the scariest part of starting your own business? Because I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that think that, everything has to be easy and, you don't have any doubts. And that's probably not true, right?
Right. You're 100% correct. It was a very scary time. In fact, um, when I started, I didn't have any clients lined up. I didn't have much savings at all. And I didn't have really even a plan, and I didn't have a mentor. No one in my family had owned a business other than my grandfather, who had a drywall hanging business. And I didn't learn much from him even about business ownership anyways. So I didn't know anything about how to start a business. I didn't major in business in college. I just didn't really have anyone to look to for guidance on what to do. And the first thing I did was called up a friend of mine from law school who we really hadn't even kept in touch very well, but I knew she had a successful business and she lived a couple hours away from me. So I called her up and said, "Hey, um, I'm starting my own business. What kind of recommendations would you have for me?" And she was just so generous with sharing with me all the things that she was doing and all the things that had worked for her. And so I just started trying to emulate what she had done. She was much farther along the process than I was. She was 10 years in and I was just starting day one. So it wasn't realistic for me. I didn't have the kind of budget that she had to be able to do all the things she was doing. But I asked her questions like, if you could only do one thing, what would you do? And if you could only afford this or that, the other thing, what would you do? And I just kind of looked to her for guidance, and she was just super, super helpful until I was able to get to a place that I could afford to get some more formal coaching and training and things like that.
Absolutely. And I'm curious, what was the one thing that she recommended that you invest in?
She said, if you could only do one thing, join the Rotary Club.
Really? That's
Hmm.
so interesting. To
Yeah.
market yourself?
Yeah. Well, to meet people and make connections,
Right.
build relationships.
That is so interesting. And I think that